State Affairs with Edmond Obilo is live. Stay tuned. In the global village of conflicting ideologies and complexities, understanding systems and schemes through awareness and social reconstruction becomes expedient.
They never told you how you offended them?
I'm not on trial, so I can't go before.
Join the radio man, Edmond Obilo, on State Affairs for local and international politics, security, extensive economic analysis, interviews, and world power play.
Nigerians must choose the path they want to follow. Follow the same looters and sponsors of violence who control the political structures or encourage the formation of a new leadership team.
Be a global citizen and join the radio revolution on State Affairs. State Affairs with Edmond Obilo. Radio just got deeper. State Affairs with Edmond Obilo is live.
Education is the bedrock of national development. It is the transformative tool that elevates societies from poverty to prosperity, from stagnation to innovation, and from dependency to self-sufficiency. In developing nations where challenges such as poverty, inequality, and unemployment persist, education becomes even more critical. The example of Chief Obafemi Awolowo's free education program in Nigeria provides a powerful lesson on how education can serve as a catalyst for national transformation. In the 1950s, Chief Obafemi Awolowo, then Premier of Nigeria's Western region, recognized the need to invest in human capital. He introduced a universal free primary education program, making education accessible to millions of children across the region. His visionary leadership was rooted in a simple but profound belief: a well-educated population is the foundation of a prosperous nation. Awolowo understood that education was not just about literacy, it was about unlocking potential. He saw that the greatest asset any nation possesses is its people, and that the key to harnessing their potential lay in providing them with knowledge and skills. By so doing, he believed Nigeria could create a generation of thinkers, innovators, and leaders who would steer the country towards progress and independence. To discuss the value of education to a developing nation, lessons from Awolowo's free education program, is Professor Pi Obanya, widely regarded as the grand sage of education in Africa. Professor Obanya was the chairman of the board for the West African Examinations Council, WAEC. He is a former member of the Committee of Experts for Education International. He served as technical advisor to Nigeria's Federal Ministry of Education following his role as chairman of the Presidential Task Team on Education. With a distinguished academic career at the University of Ibadan, where he became a professor of education in 1979, Professor Obanya later worked with UNESCO for 11 years, holding key leadership positions, including Director of the Regional Office for Education in Africa. Professor Pai Obanya on State Affairs.
Where if you were to take some, let's say there's 3 southern zones of Nigeria, the level of access to primary education will be equal to what we have in Mauritius, which is the highest in Africa. But the further north you go, the more difficult it becomes. And so when you look for the average, we fall below African standards. Then you have the gender dimension, where parents prefer to send the boys to school and not the girls. Again, it also has a geographical dimension in our own case, because if you were in the southeastern states, it will probably be the opposite, that the girls stay more in school. But there again, the conclusion is not right. The conclusions we draw from it, because the boys who drop out of, say, secondary school in the southeast don't come from my type of home. They still come from the homes of the underprivileged among us. The other conclusion is this: it is not every southeastern boy who drops out of school who actually drops out of education. Many do drop out of school, but many also do go into all sorts of further learning, in fact, experiential learning, as they are learning to deal with, say, electronics. They are also learning the science and the mathematics and the language that goes with electronics. They may not be doing so in the same language of the physics textbook.
I wonder why some of us look down.
Well, they are not schooling, but they are getting educated. We're not saying that every one of them is getting educated. And what society owes them is to make sure that that you enrich the education they are getting.
After submitting the finding of that tax team on education, have you seen the effect of the findings?
We did submit. And I tell you, I'll repeat in the same word, my final submission. I said, Mr. President, honorable ministers, let me now come to our most important recommendation. And in doing this, I quote Professor Kizebo of Burkina Faso, who said that if you were to put down all the reports written on education in Africa since independence, the report will be as high as Mount Kilimanjaro. And if you were to record the sputum that came from people's mouth as they were talking, that would be as large as the river Congo. He then said, but why have we not made progress? And he concluded, because of lack of political will to implement. And I said, Mr. President, sir, that's my most important recommendation.
Political will.
Well, they laughed. And we said, well, it's no laughing matter. But what followed my recommendation? President Jonathan did write to the ministry. They said, now give me a proposal how you intend to implement. And the ministry set up a high-level implementation committee. I heard that I was to be chairman of that committee, but some people said I couldn't be. So I was made technical advisor. After 2 meetings, I wrote to the ministry asking that I be given a few officials, since it was a question of putting a plan together how to proceed. And in a few days we could give the plan. And that was 2011. 2009. I have not gotten any reply from that, and that committee has ceased meeting.
Nobody came.
Since then we had more ministers. But people always talk about political will. And I will tell you from my experience, wherever people have made progress, you also have the social will, although you need one to pull the other.
Which comes first?
Well, the political will, because it's part of governance for you to organize people, to galvanize their energies. So you start with that, and while you are doing that, you're also learning from the people on how to get things done for their own good, and they will be the major actors, the thinkers, actors, because they are the major. And once they follow you with what you are doing, you got the political will. And whenever you talk about resources for education, money is important, but it's not the most important. It is that social will, which was what the Christian missionaries used.
Social will.
The schools and colleges they built, they didn't bring the money from Northern Ireland. Our poor people then gave their land, gave their labor, gave up their time, and gave up their children who were, factors of production to be educated. And there used to be an example from Igbo land where they said two reverend fathers in two different communities. One reverend father said, "Oh, these people are well organized. I'll use them to build my school." The other one said, "These people are savages. I'll build for them." Well, the ones built by the people became Unakukwani, our school. And so people were married to it. The other one became Unakukwa father. Now father Sabi, let him do what he likes with the school. So that spirit of Unakukwani must be brought back to the way we develop not only education but everything else.
Let's look back to 1955, the 17th of January, when Awolowo launched free education in the western part of Nigeria.
Well, first of all, I can talk about this. I wasn't a direct beneficiary, but I was 1954 in Standard 5. We were to finish in Standard 6 because the region was moving from 8-year primary to 6 years. We had to take the same examination as those in Standard 6, and I was lucky to come out. And the following year came what they call the secondary modern school, which absorbed the battalion of those who couldn't go to the main secondary school, a 3-year course, which I'm the beneficiary of. Luckily, I didn't continue to any formal primary or secondary again till I came to study in this university. So in that case, I'll be a beneficiary. But I lived through it, and I've written about it. First of all, Awolowo had a vision. He had lived through this society. He had been self-educated up to become the degree of become. And he knew what change opportunities for education will make in people. And he also knew the value of what we now call basic education, which is not just a question of years, but a question of what you got in it. He also knew that he needed the people. And you could see it took a long time in planning, because it has to be a consultative process. Because planning is not a question of writing something on a piece of paper. That is a document. The real plan is in the minds of people. And I could remember the type of jingles. Free education school in the Western region, register, and the Yoruba version of that. So before it ever came, people were ready.
It was a movement.
Yes. And remember, it was also people-oriented.
He discussed with the people.
Not only that, I'll take one example. One result of free primary was an upsurge in number of people ready for secondary education. And 1955 witnessed the expansion of secondary education in Western Nigeria. And it was mainly community efforts. So we live in the city of Ibadan. Loyola College, 1973. Yejide Grammar School, 1976. Ibadan High School, 1955. St. Patrick's, 1955. Lagelu, 1955. these were all community. Sometimes the churches and Muslim faiths follow them. But imagine what the situation could have been if you didn't have those. And you go from place to place. I later found myself teaching in Bongodi Omo Grammar School, Origbo Community High School in Ife, Ikwetumodu, and so on. It was because you were doing with the people that the people also, on their own accord, started their own secondary schools. And the secondary schools then were not, you needed community effort before government granted approval. When I taught in Origbo community, the first 4 years, everything was community-based, self-financing, if you like. And the fourth year, we were inspected by government. And when you say inspection, they will watch every teacher teach. They watch the equipment, the services, and all that. Then, when you got that approval, government gave you some grant, but they never gave you the entirety of what you requested for. The rest was called assumed local contribution. And it was after government approval that WAEC came again to inspect. And that's why most of those schools spend 6 years to get a school certificate instead of 5. And WAEC will make you 5 years if you showed progress. So you can see it's a combination of so many things. But we learned a few lessons from that. We still have in this country, and we've had it since independence, the question of data drought. We don't know how many people we have. And so the projection that was made in terms of how many people will be ready for primary education January 1955 was overtaken because we didn't know that.
Awolowo made a point that only educated person can play a full and meaningful role in the affairs of society.
And that's what society has always done, whether you were living in 1800 or 100 BC. Those who've emerged as leaders, those who've changed the course of history, are only those whose minds have been transformed through education.
That Awolowo made that venture, how would you describe his mind?
He had a vision. He has been through hardship. He had acquired education the hard way, and he knew what the benefits were. And he also knew that you have to lay a solid foundation. And that was what he tried to do, using the limited means at the time. And most importantly, he carried the people along. And it had its impact on Western Nigeria. The challenge today is to go back and inject quality into the good work, the good foundation that Awolowo laid.
Do you think there can be democracy without people that are educated?
There cannot be. There will be chaos instead. People will follow you up like any sheep of goats, but they will not make any change, and you yourself will not grow because you think you know everything.
Is Nigeria chaotic?
I think that's what it is. You came through a traffic jam today. Is that not chaotic?
Is it because we are not educated enough?
We are not educated. Well, many people have been to school, but the number is not even enough. And those who've been to school have been through school, but the school has not been through them.
We need education revolution.
We need societal change, attitudinal and value orientation, all true. And as I said earlier, this is a question of the egg and the hen again. And where do you start? Where do you start? And I think in this case, we need it to be led by a government, because that's where governance comes in. That is, what do we need to get along in this society? But education, I agree with you, but we're not saying schooling. We mean education in the true sense of the term, whether you are in school, out of school, young, adult, old. How can we change your mindset and your value orientation?
Professor Obanya, more than 10 million Nigerian children are out of school. Does that strike fear into you?
First of all, you see, I know about this. I've followed it over the years. But you see, we are not tackling the problem. Where are these people located? They are not located in Nkalagu, and they are not located in Egbado or Yawa department. They are located in specific parts of this federation.
Are you talking about the northern part?
Well, wherever it is, they are also located in the slums of our various cities. They are located among the poorest of the poor in wherever we are. So, first of all, please, you do solve the problems of education outside the education sector as well. Raising people living standards is also another way of changing so many things. And everything you do for health impacts on education. What you do for agriculture impacts on education. What you do for communication, road transport, everything impacts on education. So what we should be doing, one, go to each locality and do a problem tree analysis. What is the root cause of this in this locality?
Is it not poverty?
Well, let's be sure. And you can only do that when you are working with the people. With the people. With the people.
Do we need to generate good data?
Of course, data drought is our number one problem. A country that doesn't know its population. You know, all this you're quoting, the problem of our data is this. For years, when you saw the education data, Nigeria will be listed as N/D, no data. Later, it became latest year available. So if you are publishing African Educational Report for 2018, the data for Nigeria will be 1988. Now, what we have is multiple source data, UNESCO data, UNICEF data, World Bank data. We don't have Nigeria-generated data.
Here we go!
State Affairs with Edmond Obilo is live. Stay tuned.
Discussing there with Professor Pi Obanya, widely regarded as the grand sage of education in Africa. He was the chairman of the board for the West African Examination Council, WAEC, and a former member of the Committee of Experts for Education International. Professor Obanya served as technical advisor to Nigeria's Federal Ministry of Education following his role as chairman of the Presidential Task Team on Education. Awolowo's free education program had an immediate and lasting impact on Nigeria. For the first time, children from the poor and rural communities had access to quality education. The program led to a surge in school enrollment, and within a few years, literacy rates in the Western region had significantly improved. This created a ripple effect that went beyond the classrooms. More educated individuals meant a more informed citizenry, better economic opportunities, and a more empowered population. Education fosters critical thinking, nurtures creativity, and equip individuals with the skills necessary to contribute meaningfully to society. In developing nations, this is crucial. A society with educated citizens is more likely to experience social cohesion, political stability, and economic growth. Awolowo's program demonstrated how targeted investment in education can create a strong foundation for sustainable development. The program is State Affairs I am Edmund Obilo. Thank you for being there.